Recording, if I remember shortcuts. So there's Alan. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see my browser. And Zoom is doing a great job always blocking everywhere I need to click. But anyways, we'll go ahead and get started with the build board. So yeah, logging. This one's been here for a while. It's actually been a topic that Nels and I have been talking about in terms of how we can actually make sure that we're securely storing them. So for context, we have a couple of options in terms of like, could we potentially use encrypted volumes to do the logging there, or can we ship them to an Elk Stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, which we currently do for existing production services, and then go that way. Nels, I know you were talking with someone in your organization about possible options there, especially with what we can do with Kubernetes clusters. Not to put you on the spot, but is there anything that you'd want to call out as far as our options with logging, or should we just kind of just move on from this topic?
As far as our options for logging specifically, then I think we probably want to have all of that data for the application and the components, services that we want to have logging for and be able to review, put into another Elk index, just like we have for all of our other production services. So as far as whether or not we want to retain any kind of or any sort of like customer event interaction logging in those indices, I don't think so. I don't think that's what we want. I know that we don't have an extensive amount of customer data in our production logs, other than things like accounts, other than things like project names, other than things like specific actions that they've taken, right, to interact with our API for tracing purposes and diagnostic purposes, troubleshooting purposes, and so on. And so I think that if your application wants to like exclude any sort of specific like project or business customer data from those logs, and that's great. So, you know, I think that's just a matter of being on top of it, being aware of that sort of limitation. And that's pretty much, I don't see any blockers to getting another index in Elk that'll handle a new document set, so long as we can identify what we need to have stored in that index and documented.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, we can better define, I think, what we really want to get out of the logs for each application. There was a discussion at one point about how potentially using logging to actually reconcile how many events we're collecting per customer, but I think there's a way we can just query that across ClickHouse clusters to kind of do that reconciling for billing and not actually use logging for that purpose.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. You might even want
yeah.
to consider having some kind of a an archive database that reflects ClickHouse to a certain degree of synchronicity, so that you'd be able to have sort of a read-only access from billing for that data, and that way it wouldn't interfere with production operations. That's what we do for our GitLab main database. They seem to enjoy that arrangement. As far as encrypted volumes go, data encrypted at rest, it turns out, according to my delivery counterpart engineer, we have all of our GKE clusters are all deployed that have any kind of volumes attached to them. Those volumes are always encrypted by Google by default.
Okay, so that would satisfy that criterion then.
Correct.
Cool. Awesome. Then I will go ahead and kind of like that issue needs a lot of refreshing anyways, but I think there's a couple of different kind of offshoot issues that we can kind of create from there. But we're at least able to kind of move that topic along a little bit more. Cool. We've got adding error state to panels. I think this one's still ready for design, so nothing there yet, unless Kevin on the...
No, it's actually in design. If you update the board, you might see it.
Okay, let me refresh then. Though if I just dragged it back, okay, cool. I didn't drag it back. I wasn't sure if I was.
No worries. Like, I changed the label not so long ago, so that's right.
No problem. Thanks for that. Cool. So, anything, Kevin, you wanted to call out there, or
no, we're good. We've been like discussing this with Jan on the issue. So it's following its course. We'll probably need a bit of copy, but I already pinged Lorena on it.
Mhm. Awesome.
And yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Up next, we have handling customer data and customer-facing releases and access to production cluster readiness. This is a confidential issue, but we are making improvements to harden our infrastructure. And there is a topic that we're discussing in terms of the proper deployment to be able to handle red data. We continue to make progress there, thanks to Nels and Max for making some changes there. But I think the long story short, and we'll probably cover it in a couple other issues as well, is that we're getting a little closer there. So really just kind of a handful of remaining topics to kind of close out there. And then as Nels and I were kind of previously discussing, there's going to be a handoff, I think, in terms of getting the true production deployment going. But I think given our current setup with our chart and things like that, it shouldn't be too much of it shouldn't be a large effort to get that sorted. This one's a 16.1 planning issue, so nothing I don't think to be said there. I believe there's still a little bit more clarification needed for this issue to update the developer documentation. So just to clarify, and then perhaps this needs to be done in writing in the issue itself, this is the user-facing documentation once you've completed the onboarding process, so that it shows you, which SDK to use and how to actually send events and things like that. And so that previously currently is set up to work with Jitsu's or the Jitsu flavor of our browser SDK. So we just need to make sure that that's been updated to give correct documentation, the correct way to instrument applications using the browser SDK that's specific for Snowplow. So yeah. Improved management of environment-specific configurations is a confidential issue, but I believe, well, I don't want to open the issue and kind of clarify that, but I know we've been making some improvements there in terms of being able to deploy to specific environments and having specific configurations as far as the cluster configuration. I've just said configuration a bunch of times, but I promise it means something. Improved ClickHouse credential strategy is also something that's related to our secrets management that we've been making improvements on. A couple of kind of remaining items there to make sure that all services that are involved with that interact with the ClickHouse service are set up to be as secure as possible. That issue may need a little bit more massaging based on the progress we've made so far. We have an issue for notifying users of existing product analytics projects to update to Snowplow SDK. This hasn't happened yet because we need to do the production Snowplow switchover, which should hopefully we should be able to get to this week. Perhaps that may change depending on what handoff is required to actually stand up kind of final production cluster. But regardless, we will be updating our updating.com with the new production cluster details. This one's just an issue for all of that needs to be done for the Snowplow switchover plan, which I believe at this point is just really updating the environments. So staging has already been done, as I announced last week. Dev is blocked currently because dev is just running off of an older version of GitLab, and then production is just really pending what we're going to do for the actual production cluster environment. But theoretically, it's ready to go. I'll still plan to have a script ready to drop the Jitsu related databases if we need to, at least just to be able to say we are at least running off of Snowplow across all environments, and at least we can move forward with removing all of the Jitsu code. All right, onto workflow design. We have write prototypes, already covered error state to panels. So we have write prototypes creating a custom dashboard for product analytics. Kevin, is there anything you wanted to call out here?
No, like interviews are in progress. It's mainly with internal stakeholders, so we might want to like run others with external, but that's about it.
Gotcha. Cool. Over in blocked, we have removing Jitsu related front-end code from product analytics features assigned to Elwin, who's not here, but is also blocked anyways by the production Snowplow switchover. So we'll go ahead and jump over to in dev. We've got saving visualization to a file. Jan, anything you'd like to call out here?
Yeah, this just recently became unblocked by the work that was done by Alvin to make the visualization designer compatible. because with Snowplow, because that's the first thing that we'll need to actually save the visualizations is have the designer be fully functional. So I'll start work again on that probably later today or tomorrow.
Great. Ellen has the create configuration screen for configuring product analytics, which is in dev. Not sure if there's any update here at this point. Down. He's creating a follow-up issue for the proposed navigation. There's been some discussion, and I think we can just kind of talk to it's in progress. Connect dev and staging, as I mentioned before, staging has been completed, but dev is blocked right now, so this will just kind of remain here until we're able to resolve that. Setting up Ingress, I believe, is specific to the ClickHouse operator work. Khalil, is there anything you'd like to call out here?
Yeah, that's specifically for the ClickHouse operator cluster, the separate cluster. Yeah, I'm still working on actually. Decided to also investigate at the same time the CH proxy, which I'm trying to do them together. Yeah.
Great. Cool. In review, we've got the removing Jitsi related backend code from product analytics features. Although you also have this issue. Is there anything you want to call out?
Actually, I think we can put it to blocked because basically they have like their reviewed once, but we don't make the maintainer review until we
the production switch over.
Production. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Awesome. That is blocked later. Updating documentation to focus around shared analytics dashboards. Rob, you have this issue. Anything calling or noting here?
Yeah, Jan did an absolutely amazing review of this yesterday. Thank you, Jan. And it's now just waiting on Lorena to have some time to do an additional review because there were so many edits made to my original MR as a result of Jan's review. So once Lorena's happy, and any changes have been made that she requests, then we should be good to go.
Great.
Ellen's got reviewing it, so it would be ready today, I think.
Awesome. Cool. And Ellen's got an admin setting change to give some better treatment of some of the fields that are containing a bit more sensitive information. We encrypt those in the back end, but we wanted to change the visual treatment on the front end. So it looks like that's in review as well. So it's confidential. We'll just move on from that anyways. Ellen, you've got standardizing dashboard date filter presets to be in the UTC time zone. Anything worth noting here?
No, that includes the functional changes, but also think that Gian, there's a little bit of UX noting to the user that these are all UTC times. So he added that in processor review. So
yeah, we have the new icon with the tooltip, so I think this just needs UX review, and then we can pass it to the maintainer. All right.
Sounds good. All right. Then we've got upgrading live clusters with Snowplow and Kafka Analytics Stack. This is actually done. They're all Snowplow ready. We just have to kind of flip the switch. So just again, for context, production is a little bit tricky because it already has existing Jitsi databases. And for the Snowplow setup to actually complete, it needs to create new ones. So depending on whether what will likely happen is we will use the existing production cluster that's being used for internal projects at least and flip that on. So we'll likely move forward with deleting all the Jitsi databases, switching on Snowplow support, and reconfiguring all the projects to use Snowplow until we figure out what we want to do to actually handle customer data. But that said, all the clusters are updated and they're ready to go. So we just have to connect them to .com and update some admin settings, and we'll update the feature flag. Cool. Final issue is in review, that is updating user-facing project analytics docs for the first external user face. Lorena, you have this issue. Is there anything you wanted to call out here?
Not yet. So I'm still catching up a bit after holiday, but yeah.
No problem.
Have a look at it now.
Great. So we've got two issues related to bringing your own cluster and connecting them at the project level, which, Alan, is there anything you want to call out here? I know you kind of starting to get familiar with testing this out.
Yeah, I'm verifying it right now. It's still in progress.
No problem. Awesome. Good to see that. And thanks everyone for your feedback on being able to verify your changes. So we were able to kind of reduce the number of issues that were waiting to be verified. All right, then we had, I think, an issue. Maybe I've passed over it. I don't think I have. First user onboarding issue template. So I'm just going to really try to pretend that I'm counting all of these that quickly, but I think we have about 18 issues closed. So this will be a fun time. Let me go back down, or I've probably passed it already. I think I've passed it. There we go. Cool. We've got 2 issues from Elwin that were already closed for updating the product analytics onboarding dashboard flow to reflect the updated Snowplow initialization process, so just making that Snowplow compatible. We've also ignored the Jitsi queue when Snowplow support is enabled, since we should no longer respect that. Instead of I believe the or condition there. Rob, you've got the next issue that's closed. Anything worth noting?
We had to close this out as a won't fix because the flag it depends on is project dependent, and we have the admin settings which obviously aren't project dependent, so we can't actually hide the different settings in both scenarios, which would be super confusing. So because we're going to be swapping up to Snowplow pretty soon with the next milestone or 2, we just opted that it'd be too much work to try and get around that in a UX UI perspective.
And soon enough we'll just delete it entirely. So that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, great. Elwin's also got an issue for resolving the single stat visualization, or almost said widget. That's cool. Shows no content when cube returns an empty array. So great that we kind of fixed that up. Alan, you've got the next 3 issues. Anything worth calling out for these now that we've closed them out?
No, once Snowplow is enabled, it was a simple thing to go through and make sure it was actually in Snowplow mode, and Snowplow accepted the input. It's all good.
Nice. All right, moving on up, we've got 2 front-end issues. Jan, Rob is assigned to the other one, but anything to call out for this issue here for events over time showing the page view count?
Yeah, I think that was just a small, what do you call it, like a visualization query fix. So yeah, just wasn't displaying correctly. Now it is.
I know a lot of us that have been testing in GTK are excited to see this one closed out. Anything worth noting here, Jan or Rob?
Just thanks to Rob for also investigating this and helping me out. And it took 2 minds to figure this one out, because I think we've been trying to figure this out for I don't know how long. It is apparently quite a common issue right across the stack, or right across the application. It's been showing up because we've turned on Webpack runtime errors that show up in a pop-up, which is good, because we should be avoiding generating those errors. But yeah, it's now fixed. Happy days. And let me know if it ever shows up again.
Will do. I will be happy to not have to close that out now. Khalil, you have an issue for installing the ClickHouse operator as a Helm dependency. Anything you wanted to note here?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, it's also related to the ClickHouse operator that we're looking. Actually, I just maybe I can note it. So instead of adding a Helm dependency, actually I use a different approach. So we install it directly to the cluster, but there are instructions in the repo.
Got it. Perfect. Excited to check that out. We've got tracking aggregated unique users viewing a product analytics dashboard. Max, anything worth noting here?
Only that it's merged, and I assume we'll take a little bit of time for it filter through to Sisense, but I think James has already added the graph that it will generate to Sisense, so we should start seeing data.
Yep, and I just refreshed. I just refreshed Sisense and I see data.
Hooray!
Awesome.
In which case, it's all done.
Nice. We'll keep moving on. A lot of stuff done. It's great. Rob, you've updating feature specs to only enable Snowplow settings when the feature flag is active. Anything you wanted to call out?
Nope, just tidy up.
And then updating users' configurations confidential. But Halil, anything you think is worth noting here?
Trying to understand. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is basically like kind of copying the configuration that we use in analytics stack in the separate cluster. So
got it. Max, you've done some more care to carry on from what Rob is doing for improving secrets management in the stack. Anything you wanted to call out for the group?
Other than we're kind of there finally, so we now have the ability to store secrets, not in plain text, inside the infra managed vault, which is very exciting.
Very cool. Alan, you've resolved audience dashboards browser data is empty for Snowplow. Anything worth noting?
I'd just say that adds a lot of fields from the various browser context plugins that we have enabled on the Snowplow side to our analytics Snowplow schema. So there should be several fields added with that one.
Awesome. That'll lend itself to being available in the Data Explorer as well. So that would be really cool. Elwin's done work, as we noted previous issues, for ensuring the visualization designer is Snowplow compatible. And then Halil, you have the next two issues as well. Anything worth calling out?
And they both were related to kubectl. There was like a small issue with the key. Just there was simple issues, both of them.
Great. And then finally, we've got a bug fix for fetching custom dashboard files from an empty repository, creating an error. Jan, anything worth noting here?
No, that was just a weird bug that I discovered on GDK. Thanks, Rob, for reviewing and merging it.
Great. Yeah, I think that was about 18 issues that have been closed. So there's a lot of good progress being made. So really cool to see that. And we've effectively used most of the duration of this meeting to do the build boards, which means there's a lot of stuff being completed and a lot of stuff being done. So we're really happy to see that. James, I think this is all just that's here. James, you have a point here on the agenda.
Yeah, I wanted to share with the team. I drafted an MR to rename the group and the category and add a category to better split visualization and data storage and management a little bit. There's just been a lot of confusion when I talk to folks about what product analytics is and what we do. So open for review, suggestion, edits. Feel free to jump in there. And Dennis, I tried to answer some of your questions to clarify things that I didn't get in my initial why statement. We can go or finish that discussion async though, for sure.
Yeah, I understand the need for more clarity around our names. I've got concerns. I think product analytics itself is as I mentioned, is an industry term. So I just wonder if that will cause confusion externally. But we can definitely have that conversation async.
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks for calling that out and announcing that though. Jan, you have a point.
Yes, okay. So first of all, I want to say great work. Like Dennis, like you just mentioned, a lot of work we did in the past week. Pretty much all of the non-ops, or no, definitely all of the non-ops related issues, as far as I can see in the product analytics Snowplow switchover plan, like all the stuff we identified is done. So with that, I just wanted to ask if what everyone thinks about scheduling some time or doing it sync or async to basically just run through and click through staging to make sure that everything is as we expect it to be. Maybe there's some last minute bugs that we have introduced or haven't caught yet. Specifically, I have one there that I mentioned in Slack. I don't know if this is expected or weird behavior. So if anyone could please help confirm that, that would be great.
Yeah, I still need to jump into the data side of things to see if there's any reason why that's showing the way it is as far as the last 7 days. But I think it'd be useful. It is important to distinguish that Snowplow support is separate from the actual customer release. There's still obviously more ops work involved around that in terms of being able to onboard customers. But yeah, I think it'd be useful just to kind of walk through and everyone go through that exercise to make sure that do we think this is an appropriate release for customers, or are we missing anything? Or are there any more bugs since we've identified over the past couple of weeks? happy to, like, we can do it sync, we can do it async. I'll leave that to the group to decide.
Oh yeah, I'll start a Slack poll or something. Maybe we can do like an async workshop.
Sounds good. Cool. We have 3 minutes left. I just wanted to quickly, with show and tell, or is there anything that anyone else would like to discuss that hasn't had a chance to put anything on the agenda? All right, then I will stop the recording for a second.